So today, if you haven't noticed already, we got Kelly.
G'day.
You don't really need really any introduction, unless people have been sleeping under a rock. But would you like to give yourself an introduction? Would you like me to give yourself an introduction?
You give me an introduction. I want to know what you think about me.
All right, Kelly's not. No, but honest to God, like if people don't know who you are at this point, they're literally living under a rock in the powerlifting strength world, not just in Australia, but worldwide. Like, come on. So, Kelly, you've been coaching me for like 3.5-ish years, and you've been coaching in general for a long time.
Yeah.
How long have you been coaching powerlifting? 10, 8?
I think I started competing myself in 2013. Did a few comps, not strong, not good, not good. And then and then just I did my PT certs and I was just PTing in a powerlifting gym because I liked strength training, and then I kind of evolved just to starting to take like local lifters to local comps. And then I was studying EP or exercise physiology at the same time. And there was like a hole in the market here where everyone was killing themselves powerlifting at the so I started rehabbing powerlifters, and then it evolved into coaching powerlifters. And I we decided to split the business into, with EPs being EPs, and I decided to go onto the coaching team, and that's pretty much when you started with me. So online powerlifting coaching has been for 3 years, but I've been doing face to face, and there's EP work in that at the same time for the EP since 2017, and then coaching in PT since 2015.
Okay. So, give or take, you've been involved in powerlifting for 10 years. And in that
10
time period,
years. Yep.
isn't that crazy? In that time period, you've done a lot.
Yeah.
Obviously, what people know and they see on Instagram, and you also have a huge gym and in-person
Yep.
business as well,
Yep. There's a lot going
which
on. There's a lot
there's
going on.
a lot of pieces
There's a
that
lot.
I think some are obvious and some are a little less obvious. But there's a
Yeah.
lot of pieces, and I think that makes a lot of your other successes like more impressive because you're able to manage them. And I know that you've talked about, I've heard you talk about on podcasts that obviously that's a learning process.
It is a very big learning process. I think it's more about self reflection. Just said on a podcast yesterday, I really learned the hard way when it came to online coaching and managing. Communication on text has never really been my strong point. I still don't scroll much. I like to keep my screen time down. You're the only person I send reels and memes to, other than Cody, my partner. Um, so it was a big learning curve. I needed to do a lot of personal growth to be able to manage myself, the business, and my clients. And yeah, that has been my focus for the last year and a half, making sure that I'm in a good headspace for everyone else around me.
Well, I feel like the key for my success is really just the memes. If there's good
Yeah,
memes turned up,
yeah.
good job.
The
If not,
funnier, the better. I
exactly. If not, it's just going
spammed
downhill.
you. Have you checked
Exactly.
your Instagram? I spammed you this morning.
Oh my God. But it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
Um, okay. But on a serious note, because I know that you personally have gone through different stages of growth, both in your business, personally, etc. And obviously, like, let's be honest, those stages suck when you're going through them a lot of times.
They
And I
do.
feel like, I don't know if you do, but I do a lot of times feel like you like self blame, like, how do I not know that? Right? Almost like
Yeah,
in terms
yeah,
of the growth. But
yep.
coming out, and obviously there's continual growth for everything, but coming out, would you change anything from the beginning, or do you think kind of going through those periods have has had a lot to do with your success now?
I think it's got a lot to do with my success now. I think that, like, when Tom, so obviously it was Tom and I who first started together, and it was just me and him for a good a good 3 years before we started to find the right team with us. We were working just so much, and to the point where, I had questioned if I want to do this a lot over the years, and I think it's made me appreciate more how I'm looking after myself, because at the time where we were working so much and I was so burnt out, I wasn't really able to hold down relationships that weren't inside of work. And I think that's made me better at relationships now. And it is learning the hard way, but I feel like learning the hard way in terms of making mistakes, losing clients, relationships in general, has made me better at relationships today. So I wouldn't change it. I know, like, it's really tough now because the world is kind of changing where more people are seeking balance. Um, and I don't disagree with that, but I think that life is sometimes about not having balance and being self-aware of the times you don't have balance. I guess that is what it is takes to be an athlete, and I view work in that type of mindset. With sometimes I'm not going to feel my best, and sometimes during competition season, I it's stressful, but it's just about doing the little things outside of it, and understanding what you need to do as a human to take the time out, and just revisiting things like workflow, sleeping times, de-stressing times, and making sure that those are looked after. And then I find work a lot less stressful in general. I could not do what I used to do. I mean, Tom and I used to be on the floor by 7, and it was back to back. My calendar now, if I did that for 1 week now, I wouldn't survive. So I just think I was running on adrenaline for years, which, had its detriments. But at the end of the day, I'm not sure if I could have achieved what I've achieved now with Perth if I didn't do that work. And I think that's just a small piece of where it is today, to be honest.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I mean, I feel like a lot of, if you're a newer coach, like you almost have to go through those growing pains and be okay with it, you know? And if you're not, that's okay. Maybe it's not for you. But if you want to be at the top and you want to be an elite coach or a really great coach, same thing as an athlete. Like you're not going to have great life balance. Like you're just not,
Yeah.
but you have the balance that's right for you. You
Yeah,
know what
I
I mean?
think, yeah, that's it. I think a lot of it comes down to work ethic as well, and understanding. Like, I never, when I was started coaching, I never thought, oh, I want to coach someone who went to Sheffield. I want to be the best coach in the world. I just kept learning and trying to learn, and realized when I didn't know enough and when I needed to change to make sure that my athletes were better.
Like I sit in front of this.
I
No,
honestly
but
can't
I
believe
mean,
you're sitting in front of a photo of yourself.
but when you started, Sheffield wasn't even a thing.
I know.
So
I
that's the
know.
crazy piece. Like
I
you
know.
started at the very, powerlifting was so little,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
so little on the big
yeah,
scene, but it's so much bigger.
and it's meant that I've had to continue to get better. And even now, like after Sheffield prep, now I'm like, okay, I need to get better. Like we need to, we've got to keep going. Everyone, like, there's only one way to continue to be successful, and it's we need to get better at what we're doing.
Hmm. When you learned Sheffield was a thing, like when it first started, were you like, I want to coach someone at Sheffield?
I don't. I guess so, but have I don't have those end goals, because I feel like the steps you take on the way, like, I know we wanted to get to Sheffield, obviously, but it was more about you, not me. Like, I'm just facilitating that pathway. I think if I was like, yeah,
And you're just a pain in the ass.
fuck yeah, I'm going to go coach at Sheffield, you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
why not?
Like, yeah, I know that, but it's your journey, and I'm along the way with it. You know what I mean? Like, I think the athletes come first. So I think it still hasn't sunk in, to be
Hmm.
honest. Like,
Hmm.
it took me a while to write that post the other day, because I just couldn't put my brain into what we just did.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, I think you winning in South Africa went, oh, fuck, okay, all right. You know what I mean? Oh, fuck.
I mean, same. I was like, oh man, okay, I won. Great.
Yeah. I was like, oh shit, okay, all right, I need to get better. Let's go. Okay. This chick's fucking strong. All right. So I think it was more, I think I'm more like that. Like, I do the work and then something good happens out of the work and then go, oh, okay, all right, now I need to get better to do the next step.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
it.
Makes sense. I mean, when
It's
I went to
like,
South Africa, I wasn't like, I want to go to Sheffield. I didn't think that was
no,
like
no.
in the cards. But
Yeah.
after South Africa, I was like, fuck it, I want to go to Sheffield.
Yeah, I think also too a lot of people like in general. I'm a big believer in the small steps along the way are what's going to get you to the end goal. So for an athlete in powerlifting, it's showing up to training every day. And if you think about the end goal, which is to win Sheffield, and you keep worrying about winning Sheffield, chances are you're probably not going to win Sheffield. It's about
Mm-hmm.
like getting the steps there to make sure that everything is ticked off. And I think coaching is very similar. If
Mm-hmm.
for me, I know if I kept worrying about things like, oh, what's going to be like in Sheffield, or I kind of just put it out of my brain and go, what's in front of me right now to get towards the end goal, not the end goal is there, because
Mm-hmm.
that means it's you. That is the mindset I used to have.
Mm-hmm.
One of my first goals in PT land was I want to get to 40 sessions. I want to get to 40 sessions. I did everything I could to get to 40 sessions. I got to 40 sessions and I was like, I feel like shit. You know what I mean?
This is a terrible goal.
This is a terrible idea.
Yeah, yeah,
So I think it's important to go, I'd like to be busier, and then what am I going to do to be busier, and then finding that balance around that. And I think that's my mindset now, but it wasn't like that 10 years ago.
yeah. Like always projecting into the future, basically
Yeah.
thinking about the future rather than
Yeah.
where you're at
Yeah.
currently,
Yeah.
and everything going on around you. I feel like as an athlete, I used to be very much like that. Remember when I said we wouldn't work well together when I first started? You would
Yeah.
have absolutely hated me as a client. I'm sure you would have reined me in eventually, but like I was very much like thinking about the future. And I was not a great athlete, not in the sense of I wouldn't do exactly what you told me, but that almost to a fault. Um, and I mean, you probably know when I first started, like my feedback, I like didn't give feedback and
Yeah.
I would overshoot everything. Got a couple things here and
I
there.
did. I did have to teach you how to be a better power lifter.
Well, I wasn't even a good, never mind powerlifting. Like I wasn't a good athlete. Like, you know what I mean? Like I was a good athlete, but I wasn't like, what word am I looking for?
I don't think that you weren't a good athlete. You were I'll shut up and do it athlete, and it's hard to be that, because then communication feels like there's holes in it, because you're like, I'm just doing the work, but what if it's
Right,
not the right work, or what if the
right.
work needs to change, or what if I'm not doing the right programming? You know what I mean? Like,
Especially when you're not in person, like especially when it's online. I feel like that becomes even more
yeah.
important.
So
Like
I
that
think
was a huge learning curve for me.
I think I just needed to not teach, but I think we just came to a good way of communicating that's worked for us. And that way of communicating doesn't work for some of my other athletes. So I think that's,
Memes doesn't work. Oh, I got 4 memes. I did good. Okay, perfect.
sometimes I'm like, all right, we better start
Meme
talking
count.
about training here, because we haven't spoken about training
It's
in a
fine.
while.
It's fine. But this actually brings me into something that is like good because I was on a podcast and they asked me about coach athlete relationship and what I think makes good coach athlete relationship, both in general, like with people I coach, but also like coach athlete relationship with you. And I feel like going into it, right? Like, listen, you're like in my family now, and it is what it is, and you got to deal with us all. But I didn't go into that thinking of that. But what
Yeah,
I did know was that, like, I didn't know you, but I like respected your opinion. And that was huge for me because like that earned my trust pretty quickly.
yeah, yeah,
And the communication piece kind of had to be built, but I feel like since I trusted what you were doing, that that kind of happened over time. And I feel like those are two things that long term is what gives athletes and coaches that work together for a long time success, and almost like not just the X's and O's that programming is, which is very important, but like that almost like X factor of sometimes you know things if I don't even tell you at this point in time,
yeah,
you know?
yeah, exactly. And I think that's one of the things I actually struggled with at the start. I struggled with how to articulate my opinions without I have to really think about things before I'll say them, like going into conversations that I may have to have with an athlete where it's not going to be the best news. Whereas before I would kind of like just spit it out. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And that kind of like when you if you don't have the like relationship that you've built, um, it can come across in a way that you don't really mean on a text. So I've had to really work at that myself.
That's fair. Because actually, when I started with you, it was we were doing like one-on-one sessions,
Yeah.
and you did spit out something at me, and I was like, I don't know the answer. And if it was over text, I probably would have been like, bitch.
Yeah.
But it was face to face, and it made a big difference. But it also made me like be like, oh, I literally don't know the answer to this. Like, I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't something that needed an immediate response, but over text that can be hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I struggled with that a lot, because I wasn't didn't know how to articulate what I was thinking. And I also think my brain was just in such a rush all the time that I
Mm-hmm.
had to just like say it or I'd forget it. So
Don't know what that's like. Never happened to me. Just leave words out.
yeah. So yeah. But yeah, no, I think that has really like learning how to articulate my words and getting communication across and setting the right boundaries and with myself has really helped over the years with online coaching, especially my retention rate. Like, you know, my guys are really solid now with my team, and I think that's because we've all grown as humans together, and the respect factor with online coaching is huge.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that's similar? Because I feel like in your business too, all of the core people that have been around for a long time.
Yeah, they have
Mm-hmm.
Tom, Tom, Chris, Steve's been around for a few years now. Danny's been around for a few years. David's been around almost as long as Tom. Sam, yeah. Uh,
Like that doesn't happen often in this
no,
type of world business.
No, we have had a fair bit of turnover as well, but I think that's kind of normal in this
Mm-hmm.
industry. I think that, especially younger coaches, they want to get out and experience things, and if they want to do that alone, like that's completely fair. Um, I do remember I've had a few jobs where I was asked to not come back because I just can't work for anyone else. Um,
Sound like Brian.
yeah, yeah, I think Brian and I are a little bit similar in that way. Um, but I think like the turnover is quite normal, when it comes to trying to grow your business. Not everyone's going to be a good fit, and I don't think that's a bad thing at all. And I think in this industry, um, especially with PT and coaching, and people want to experience different things
Hmm.
and they want to learn different in different ways. So, if like that means going on and doing it for yourself or working for someone else, that's just the industry.
Hmm. Yeah, especially because there's so many. I feel like so many people get into it young, and it might be their first time coaching in general. You
Yeah,
don't really know where you might end up.
yeah. I must say this on every damn podcast that I do, but I just think the face-to-face experience before becoming an online coach is so valuable, um, because for me personally, Tom was online coaching before I was. I Yeah, I know. Yeah, Tom was online coaching. He was coaching a few guys in Australia online. before we split the business. And I was like, I'm not doing that yet. I'm not doing that till I'm comfortable with doing the Zoom sessions
Mm.
and comfortable with looking on video, because I did struggle with it. I was so used to giving feedback straight away after looking at something, that I found it difficult to look on a video and do it.
Zoom sessions are rough. Don't tell Tom I said that. Love Tom. I said Zoom sessions are rough. I said don't tell Tom I said that. I find it really hard to do like a one-on-one session that's say 45 minutes to an hour on Zoom.
Yeah.
You know, just in terms of like my own and like
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like there's
I found
yeah,
it really hard too, and they actually burnt me out a fair bit.
especially the volume.
And the volume and how much you need to think. Like their Zoom sessions are very thinky, whereas face to face, I'd be like, I'm just going to the bathroom, and I'd be able to have a second where I could kind of regather myself. But
Hmm.
Zoom sessions, you've got to be attentive for that long, which is a hard thing for both you and I to do.
Yeah, that didn't work well for me. COVID, thank you a lot. Like COVID was great because it gifted a lot of people online coaching. Like it gifted me the ability to online coach full time. But Zoom sessions were terrible for me
Well, that's what happened with
during
us.
COVID.
We flipped to Zoom, and then after that, that's when we flipped to online coaching. It was a pretty messy time because we
Hmm.
had myself, Tom, and a couple of other guys that don't work for us anymore doing face to face, online coaching, doing Zoom sessions, running the business, like all that. It was very messy in terms of communication, but we just had to work on the fly because we didn't know what was going to happen.
Was that during COVID when you started to
Yeah,
kind of flip?
during
Yeah, yeah.
COVID, yeah. So
No, it's
that
fucking
was with
COVID.
us as well. That flipped us to online coaching. It flipped us to doing Zoom sessions first, which has been really good for the business because international reach.
Love it.
Yeah, and then it flipped. Then Steve reached out to wanting to come and bring online coaching here, and that's when that started. So 2020, and then you were 2021.
Yep.
Yeah.
But even okay, so even that, like the international coaching, like that's a newer thing.
Yeah.
At least the
Yeah.
frequency of it and the,
Yeah.
how many, like right now, on your roster, how many international clients would you say you coach?
I'm probably 90% international, 10% Australia.
Yeah, that's
I've
crazy.
got three at nationals. One, two, three, four, three or four. One, two, three at nationals would have been four. I've got four. Yeah, I've only got about 10, less than 10 Aussies,
Yeah,
and that's.
that's crazy.
I don't think that's a bad thing. I think
No, not at all.
I think it's a great thing for me personally, because it means that I have more time to work on the business, which is what I really needed. If my whole book was full of Australians, I would really struggle just with the time difference. Um, and I think it's also been really good for me because it means that I have more brain space to give to my athletes.
The best week of coaching I ever experienced was when I was in Australia for a week. It's like
You
wake
said what?
up. The best week of coaching I
Oh,
ever
coaching.
experienced was
Yeah,
when I was
yeah.
in Australia. You wake up, you work, you do your messaging, and then everyone's sleeping.
And then everyone's sleeping, and it's way better for me because I am more of a morning person now. My brain is absolute toast after 4 p.m. You can't get anything good out of me other than playing Mario. Um, but I that's where I really struggled when we went to Malta,
But
because
yeah,
my whole it was less international, but still a big whack. I learned the hard way that I wasn't putting up enough boundaries properly, um, and had a big turnover that year, and that's when I started to really get my systems down pat with my expectations of myself and my athletes, and being very vocal about what those expectations are and holding myself to those expectations. Um, like this weekend, I need a bit of downtime, so I'm going to take most of the weekend off because I haven't had a day off properly since Sheffield. at all. So I kind of need that, and just being vocal about that, I think, really helps me and helps everyone around me.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, yes. All right, I'm just gonna switch gears. So how was Sheffield? I'm just
Great.
going for it.
It was
How
great.
yeah, did you enjoy yourself? No, but like, did you realize at the time that you were the first female coach at Sheffield? Was coaching at, I'm just rapid firing right now, when we'll circle back. How, like, did what you think the coaching experience at Sheffield, was it similar to what you thought it might be in preparation for?
But I did. Yeah, I did actually. I thought
Hmm.
it was. I thought it was quite good. I was actually quite proud of myself. That I was pretty nervous the days before, but at the actual competition, I was sweet. Um, it was more of the nerves the day before, days before, coupled with jet lag, are probably the worst feeling because you physically cannot sleep because you're so jet lagged, and then that makes it worse.
Hmm.
Because so I think the coaching experience is great. I'd be like, obviously, our goal is to go back, and would be excited to be able to go to the new venue, just because it was a bit difficult with communication, and
Hmm.
downstairs was very, very laggy. After you finished, I didn't even see any of Sunita's deadlifts, and Steve messaged me going, "We think Meg might get podium," and I had no idea what was going on because of the lag downstairs. So I
Hmm.
mean,
Right.
that's minor. The actual coaching experience itself was phenomenal. It was fantastic.
Hmm.
Uh, Having previous experience with international competition helped a lot, and I
Hmm.
actually think the format of Sheffield isn't as difficult as Worlds because you're against everyone, and all you can do is put up your best day. That's it. Like, it's, whereas the other one is Worlds is like, you got to put up your best day and we go for the goals, which is what we did, right? But at Worlds, it's like you got to win. Like, you have to win. Like,
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Whatever that means. That's what we're gonna do.
yeah, exactly. So
That
it's
might
a bit,
mean putting up your best day, or might mean not,
yeah,
like being
exactly.
conservative.
Yeah, so I actually found the actual coaching experience good, and I think w- the coaching team, me, Brian, Steve, like, all of us have been around each other for so long now that it was easy, in terms of what communication, what was needed with communication. It was just frustrating that we couldn't communicate to downstairs at all, but we got it done.
Were you prepared for me to freak out 4 months before?
Your mate,
Oh, so just so
I
everyone knows, this is the
swear,
first time that Kelly was like, "Great, we're gonna hop on a call," and I was like,
yeah,
"Oh no!"
mate, I
In
was
3 years,
to you just freaking out, and I'll be like, "Oh God, what's going on now?"
same.
But
Not I was ready to like just be done with it
to
after
be
like trying to get Sheffield for like 3 years.
to be fair, that was a huge learning curve for me, and that's the post competition cycle that you're doing now is completely different, and that was a big learning experience. I think that you you handled it really, really well.
Well, after
To
that
be
point,
honest, no, like, you're allowed to
came
say
to a peak
if you're
early.
an athlete, like, at the end of the day, I prescribed a program that wasn't right, and it made your hip flare up. Like, if we're just gonna go, like, be honest. And that's on me, not on you. So you had every right to be fucking annoyed.
Yeah, yes, I get what you're saying. But it wasn't like I haven't been in pain before. Do you know what I mean? Not necessarily to say like directly related, but I just felt I was very frustrated,
You lost yourself.
obviously.
You, as we spoke about before, you lost yourself in where the end goal was a bit early.
Early.
Yeah, and that's
Like we're
okay.
talking October,
Yeah,
November,
you were
maybe.
12 weeks out.
October. Probably
You were
October.
12 weeks out. because I was like,
12.
I
Like
literally,
way too early.
yeah, I remember saying to you, mate, you are 12 weeks out. This prep hasn't even
Mhm.
started yet.
And it was
Uh,
done in my head. Just, I was like, it's done.
it's good that we had the ability to be able to say these things to each other. There's sometimes it's normal for athletes to get lost, especially, two things we learned is you need to do a meet in between a meet. Like, I
Mm.
think the time here now between
Huh.
worlds,
Just kidding. You
no,
just realized what you said.
no.
I
I think
go,
this 19 weeks or 18 weeks
oh.
is the absolute limit.
Yeah,
Like,
I know. It was a very, very, very long time. But I will say, like, I basically, let's be honest, I just sat there and cried. And you pulled me back onto the ledge. And like, while the problem wasn't necessarily perfect yet, it was kind of a turning point in my training
yeah,
of
yeah,
where I was just like, okay, like, just keep going, essentially. And I felt for the first time ever, I was like pretty chill and like,
yeah.
which was weird, going into like my, or through my peaking block.
You were.
It was
You were
weird.
super chill. It was weird as. I was like, okay. So I said,
It was the only time I was like more chill than you. I was like, oh, I'm more chill. Okay.
I think it was a great prep. I think it was a great prep in terms of knowing what you need for a longer term preparation, like, which is really helped this time after. I think that um, I think that it was a good learning experience because at this level, the preparations, when you do get past the fact of needing to have to do nationals and stuff, there is longer preparations, and I think that's needed. Don't laugh.
See what you did there? See what you did
Yeah,
there?
yeah, I see what you. Yeah.
I think it's a good point though, because I feel like for me, a lot of the reasons I've been able to compete so long and like have success is I've been able to pull myself out of like the day to day and see big picture. It's like not every
Yep.
day is going to be good, right? And I
Yep.
feel like at that point in time, I was so in the day to day because I was uncomfortable that I wasn't able to pull myself back out. And that's kind of like what our conversation did. I was like, hey, I understand how you feel today and how you maybe felt, but like there's a ton of time and it doesn't mean you're
Yeah,
not strong.
exactly. Yeah,
You just
exactly.
feel like shit, so you can't move that much load. But in
Yeah.
12 weeks from now, that might be different.
Exactly. I had to really back my decision on making your squat idle for 2 blocks.
Yeah, I
Like,
hated both you and Tom, but yes.
I really had to back myself. Like, that was a big decision
Hmm.
in terms of where the program was because it was me, because I'm the one who fucked up to start with. Then I had to unfuck the situation. And to unfuck the situation,
Unfuck my
sorry,
head.
sorry, listeners, I swear a lot. And I was particularly swear a lot around Meg. So I had to unfuck the situation. And the only way to do that was to idle because if we kept pushing, that movement would have gotten worse.
100%. But I think that the reason it worked and it worked so well and that we were able to kind of cruise in and I wasn't freaking out the past 12 weeks was because of the past 3 years of like the trust and communication we built. And then I was like, not happy about it, but I was like, okay, like I understand in my logical brain, even though I'm not happy in my athlete side of me
Yeah, yeah,
brain.
yeah.
And like I can pull myself out and see the big picture.
Yeah. No one wants to
Um,
idle, no one wants to idle their training 12 weeks out from Sheffield.
no, but big picture, like that was my goal to get to Sheffield, right? Like that was the
Yeah.
goal to have the experience of Sheffield. And I think for me, that's what helped me so much during the rest of the prep of like focusing on that so that I would enjoy the experience.
Yeah.
Because who knows, like, is my goal to get back? Of course. But like, who knows if that's going to happen? Anything can happen, right?
Yeah.
So
That's
I wanted to
it.
be able to, if it's one, I want to be able to enjoy it and not walk away pissed.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I know. I think for me, reflection definitely was like straight up. I'm like, holy shit, I want to go back. And I
100%.
don't really say that about other powerlifting competitions because it's not that I don't like them, but it's work. And
Yes.
this one, I was like, holy shit, I really want to go back. That was absolutely
Yes.
insanely good. Yeah.
Yes. It's hard to describe to people. I know it was a meet, but for me, I feel like I didn't really compete. I feel like it was an stand and compete yet. It was it was an experience. Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like I went through an experience and an event rather
Yep.
than it was like a meet like Worlds
Yep. Exactly.
is a meet.
Exactly. I agree with you.
Would you do anything like coaching wise, coaching for Sheffield? We're going back 2026. Would you do anything differently in preparation for your like meet day?
I mean, the rough part is flying in so late for me. I mean, if I could fly in earlier and adjust earlier, that would be good for my mindset. Um, I think I haven't really, even though we've been coach athlete for so long, I haven't really had many experiences handling you at the
Mm-hmm.
back. So I
Mm-hmm.
definitely think that um, some things with me can improve with that, but I don't think
You
that
mean because I
anything.
don't talk? I just give like one of these.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And the chalk thing and the backpack thing. You love the backpack.
No, I don't usually do that, but it was upstairs, downstairs. So I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna forget something, so I'm just gonna bring this
Yeah,
bag.
true, true, true. I think that
I
I think
usually just bring my water. I'm not that crazy. I just need to point that out. Okay, I usually bring my water and my chalk. And I bring the chalk because I've done meets that have terrible chalk, like
yeah, yeah,
slippery.
yeah. Fair enough, fair enough, fair enough. I think that yeah, I think
Prepared.
that's it. I think just would have been nice to have more time really handling you before, but I think now that I've essentially handled you at the biggest competition in the world, I don't think anything like I think it's just me getting to know what you're like more out the back.
Hmm.
That's pretty much it because that's Brian's jam. He's been doing that for so long, so he would know your little quirks and what that means when you're walking that way or doing that. What?
Fair advantage because he has to live with me day to day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Give him one of these. It's a good thing. You know what I mean?
yeah, 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 yeah. So
Uh,
I think that I think that's it. But I mean, that just comes with experience. I don't think that's anything I can change, other than
what? She's talking shit about you. He just came down. He's cooking his dinner. I said, yes, she's talking shit about you. Yeah,
Other
that's
than that,
fair.
I was really happy with the decisions I made, and I backed myself with the decisions. I mean, like in hindsight, like we could have gone, and this I've said this on other podcasts this week. I could have gone 200, 210, 220, but if you
Mhm.
missed 220 still and you didn't hit 215, you were 5 kilos away from the world record even further. And for someone like you would have been pissed.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Like, and I'm really, and bench was bench, and I'm glad I opened heavy because for me, I was like, bench has not been going well, so I need to bleed out as much as I can out of this.
Yeah, I mean, bench, I had no idea what to expect. So I was like, yeah, whatever. Like, we can do whatever. And after the first attempt, I knew it wasn't going to be good, whatever.
I knew
Even though
after the last warm up, mate.
the bar speed was okay, but like, I was like, no. Like, watching it back, I can see how other people were like, there's five. In my hands, I was like, there's zero.
There was no
You know?
pop, no
No,
pop, no, and
no.
like it was like I'm glad I stuck with the game plan because if I came off and you came off and I went, oh, I'm only going to go 140 and you missed 140 twice, you would have been more pissed
Right. Right. I
because it's
mean,
further
yeah,
away
I
from
wouldn't
you.
have, totally. I wouldn't have been surprised on anything after I took that opener, though. Like, I literally, in my head, not to be like negative, but I feel like I have a pretty good read on my bench in general
Yeah, you do.
these days, although it was harder on that pad for me. But I walked off being like, it's probably going
Yeah,
to be an opener day. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
For how that felt, which is what it is, you
It
know?
is what it is,
Uh,
and it's annoying, but it is what it is, and we can't change it now. So you just got to adapt. And I think I was really happy with the way that both of you and I adapted throughout the competition. Like you could have really, really been pissed about that bench,
mhm.
but you were for like a minute, did a little dance, got over it, and was like, right, let's go deadlifts.
This is one of my skills. I have experience in this, missing
Yeah,
lifts. Like one missed lift isn't going to, I mean, heck, 4 missed lifts isn't going to make or break your day. I won worlds with 5 lifts in South Africa.
I know, and it's
It's
a big thing,
only
like
going to make or
going.
break it if it breaks you mentally.
Yeah, it's like it
Like
is a big thing going 9 from 9, but at the end of the day, like if you go 9 from 9 and finish seventh, woo.
sometimes, and this is going to be a hot take, it's probably not, but this is how I feel about it. Going 9 for 9 is great, but it is somewhat of a privilege if you want to win. If you can go 9 for 9 and
Yeah,
win easily, that's somewhat of a privilege. Like
yeah,
you're kind of comfortable. And in a lot of these weight classes, you can't get comfortable or else you're screwed.
that's right.
So it is what it is, but you have to mentally be able to move on, and each attempt is its own meet.
Exactly. Nine,
Anyways,
nine, and there's nine shows.
even some meets I didn't go 9 for 9, I think I went 9 for 9. Like Lithuania in my head, I'm like 9 for 9, 8 for
I have
9, fine.
ever.
I kind of feel that way. Malta, 8 for 9. In my head, 9 for 9. You know?
Beautiful.
Can't change
Great
it.
day. Sick day
Great
that
day.
day. Awesome.
Sick day.
Hmm.
Bench depth, not my fault. So whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
Here are some questions from Instagram. So
Oh, people actually ask me questions?
yeah, a lot. Some of them I'm not
Really?
reading, but I can send you later. Um, you can thank Chelsea for that. Uh, all right. First one. What do you think about Agata coming to 63?
Bring it on.
Okay, that was short. Let's go.
Well, what else can you say?
I don't know.
I've been asked this week. Okay, I think that it's great. I think it's awesome that an athlete can go up and down as much as she is. I think that she's got nothing to lose in the situation doing it at a low stakes meet. I would like to see, like Shell just showed that you can drop a weight class and keep some strength to win. If she's that phenomenal of an athlete to be able to do that as well, good for her. She's an anomaly. But
Mm-hmm.
I think with the way that powerlifting is changing in terms of coaching is getting better, nutrition is getting better, athletes are looking after themselves better, I can't see why she wouldn't make weight. How she holds her strength is on her, I don't know. And in terms of the competition, if we're talking about me and you, we've got a job to do, and that's what we do, no matter who's standing in front of us.
100%. I agree. Let's go. Be right here. Okay. Come to Sheffield, baby. All I'm going to say is someone that used to cut weight, just save it for the big meet. It's not a very fun experience. If you're going to do it, just do it at Sheffield.
Yeah, she's going to be ripped.
Yeah, she's going to be lean. All right. What are some of your biggest strengths and weaknesses as a coach?
Strengths are things like reliability, honesty. Um, I'd like to say my programming skills. I'd like to say my actual coaching skills is a strength. Weaknesses are I've had to really work hard at game day coaching. I was always really weak at it, and now I'm getting much better at it. Um, 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 um,
First part for you.
Making decisions. I sucked at making decisions. I was no good at. I would get too worked up in my own head, and I wouldn't be able to make the right decision based on and back myself. That was it. In terms of maths, that's never going to be my strong point. But I am much better at seeing what's in front of me with the differences and not worrying about the small things that can crowd your brain, and relaxing. Whatever happens on the day happens. You make the best decision that you can with what's in front of you. If you fuck up, you fuck up. It's sport. And I used to put a lot of pressure on myself with that performance anxiety, and now I don't. Other weaknesses are I can take on too much, and I don't think that's a weakness. I think that's just me learning to understand myself. I don't really do that as much anymore. Um, is that it? I said a few of
That's fair.
each.
I back that. I back that.
What do I say? Like weaknesses? Yeah. So I think
game day coaching is so different than coaching. So it makes sense
There's a lot of
because it's
coaches
split
who
second.
actually don't. There's a lot of coaches who actually don't like game day coaching. There's actually a lot of
Totally get
high
it.
level. There's actually a
Totally
couple of
get it.
high level coaches who are very good and had athletes go to Sheffield and Worlds multiple times who've said to me, "I don't really like game day coaching,"
Totally get it.
and
It's
that's
hard because you're so invested in the process, obviously,
mhm.
like as a coach. And then when you get to the actual meet, you're like just as invested as the athlete and you're making a decision split second on essentially how the day is going to play out.
Yeah, I think it is definitely a thing where you do need to understand your strengths and weaknesses as a coach, and work as a team. I'm very thankful for Perth that we have that team and we know each other's strengths and weaknesses, and can work with that together. I think that I think just because you are a good game day coach, and I think they are two totally different things. And I think that the
Mm-hmm.
industry is changing now with like Matt Gary so big in game day coaching, and I think that powerlifting around the world is changing. I know it's definitely changing in Australia where there are some coaches going to Perth for coaching, like they want to, and whether or not they make money out of that, I hope they do. That would be great. I think that it's something else that needs to change in the industry. But for me, like when it comes to coaching the big guys and that, I'm like, Dave, you're with me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because I know
Mm-hmm.
that he's going to be able, I need to stick to what I know I need to do on the day. And that is
Mm-hmm.
choose good attempts that are going to push the athlete's total higher.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Yeah.
takes a lot of brain power to do that for me because I'm thinking about not so much what other people's attempts are, but I'm thinking about like what my strategy is going to be to push the total as high as I possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's it. All right, that's my strengths
All
and
right.
weaknesses. There you go.
All right. All right. Um, I'm not sure what this one means, but I'm gonna just say what I think it means. What do you find are the best accessories for bench press?
Depends on the human. So yours are dips, rows, triceps. For other people who can't dip, it's going to be some type of machine press or some type of press that allows your scaps to move through the range they need to move through. So if I know that they need chest hypertrophy, I'll also give a shoulder press. Um, in terms of getting the arms over the head, I think that's really important because we can get stuck, powerlifters can get stuck in bits. Um, and then really good quality tricep work, really good quality upper back work. It has to be good quality. You can really butcher tricep work, but tricep work done in a really good way can help the shoulders stay super healthy for bench press in general.
You know what I'm doing right now? Kickbacks.
Kickbacks, man. I'm a kickback fan. So
My
Jackie had a
triceps are
kickback
so
properly the other
sore.
day. Yeah.
So sore.
Kickbacks
Unbelievable.
are great because they restore shoulder extension, internal and external rotation, depending on which way you do it. So I think they're really good.
I gotta tell you something. I throw them in sometimes, before, but now I'm doing them obviously like in my program. So I always kept them kind of light. Last night had a session with Tom and he was like, yeah, how'd it go with your heavy kickbacks? I said, I think I did pretty good. I was doing 20 pounds. And he was like, that's great. Your goal is 20 kilos. I was like, oh, I thought I was like, yeah, 20 pounds. Like I'm jacked. And then I just got absolutely annihilated in my
It's
ego.
good
And
that
I was
you can
like,
actually
I don't think I
feel.
could ever do that.
It's good that you can actually feel your tricep. That's one thing with triceps. If a lot of athletes don't train triceps properly because they can't get the elbow or the shoulder fully extended,
Yeah.
they're
Trying to
really
like swing.
good quality tricep work is really important, especially for short and long arm benches. Really, like if you look at your bench, it's just like
Shorties.
a tricep extension. That's all it is.
Don't give the people fire or fuel to the fire, okay? Oh, come on now. Come on. There's enough out there. Have you ever fired a client?
Yes,
Okay. How did you go about it?
I don't think that we work well together. I would. I think that you would get more out of a coach who can offer you X, Y, Z.
How much anxiety did you have before the first time you fired the first client you ever fired?
I don't remember. I think anxiety sometimes comes out in frustration for me. So I would, was I frustrated? Yes.
Fair. I had internal breakdown for at least a month. Okay.
Did you? You would though.
Yeah, I did.
You would
I did.
though.
I did. Yeah, I did. It was very, very challenging.
I think I come with those
Uh,
criteria. I think like I I think I think these days athletes are pretty tuned into themselves on whether or not they're going to work with a coach. I think what I mentioned before, with really struggling with the communication side of online coaching, made me and some athletes feel like we didn't work well together. But I think that that was just the need of growth on my part to be able to explain what I needed or what I needed from myself. So I I don't think I've ever really fired someone because I don't like them, but I've said to some people that I don't think that we're the right fit.
yeah, that's fair. I mean, sometimes that's just true. That's one of those, what unique challenges have you faced as a woman in the strength world?
I used to, back in the day, like when I was doing a lot of face to face work, I found it hard to be heard. In terms of if I was working in a uh, facility, um, my opinion, and I'm very opinionated, my opinion wasn't really respected. My opinion wasn't really respected, and that would come out with me not getting along with certain people. Those are the things that I've struggled with mostly. I've learned to take that stuff in my stride, and I've learned to be a little bit less opinionated when it's not needed. Um, those, I think that is the major thing that I struggle with. I was quite, I won't say lucky, but I do have had a lot of male clients on my list for a really long time. I think that has been actually a benefit. And I, because of the stigma around female coaches, I think I'm one of the only female coaches who's really broken that stigma of having like a half half. I've got more females
You have big
now.
guys too.
Yeah, yeah. I've got more females now than I ever have. I think that's just the way that my coaching is going. Um, um, I think that I've had to prove myself a lot more than other coaches have, especially with the performances of my male clients.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, if you think about it, that's probably even current day, but like elongated when you say back in the day, like in 2013 or 2012, like you were likely the only like female woman in the room of any strength and conditioning establishment. Like I graduated college in 2010 and I'd be like the only female anywhere.
See, you know what? Where I started training for powerlifting, it wasn't. It was pretty
Mm.
half half. Um, but there were other gyms located in Brisbane that were primarily males, and
For coaches though, or just for clientele?
clientele. Yeah, no coaches.
Yeah. Like that's something that's changed a ton.
Yeah, I don't remember another. I do remember
It's a way to go,
other
but
female. I remember other female PT coaches. So there was like a thing with powerlifting before powerlifting coaching really took off, that PTs were just coaching people to powerlifting competitions. There was a
yeah.
fair few of them. Some of them have left the industry now. Um, there, there, there has always been a pretty big female powerlifting movement in Brisbane. There's a couple of big competitions. One in where I used to work in Valhalla called Pretty and Powerful, and that has really kind of made.
Chorus is called pretty. It's
Yeah,
probably
I
a great
know.
gym, but I'm like, calm the fuck up.
I know, fucking
I'm
yeah.
sorry, that was rude. It's probably a great
No,
gym. I'm sorry.
no, it's okay. It's okay. You're just pointing out the obvious. But I think that like I've had to prove myself a lot more, especially especially back in like 2017, 18, 19. I think Steve coming on board here um, was great because, two directors, male, female together, we're very equal in the way that we run the business and very equal in the way that we think about running the business. And I think that's really helped as well. Um, and yeah, I just think I just had to try harder. Just try
Fair.
harder.
Try harder. That's it. Try harder. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Um,
Are they all that bad that you have to sift through them?
is
Tell
that
me what
why when I left?
tell me what Chelsea said. What'd she say?
Nope. Absolutely not. I can't say it out loud. You know what it is. Okay. This one, I mean, I'm just gonna say what I would say, and I kind of feel like I know what your answer would be, but tips for coaching yourself. I would be able to. I'd run myself into the ground. I've tried it. It doesn't work for me. I understand some people perhaps can't like afford a coach, but I would still have to do a free program or something because I would just literally kill myself.
I
You
mean,
go.
like I'm not biased with self coaching. I think some people do an okay job with self coaching. I would more lean towards doing self management with nutrition. I've got more athletes who do that, yourself included. Um, I think if you're going to self coach, I think it would be important to have a very good training partner who could pull you back in line. I think you would need to learn to look at your own lifts objectively in terms of
Probably a VBT would be great.
a BBT would be great. You would need to not get stuck in doing the same thing every time, like a lot of
Mm,
self coach people get stuck in. And I would look for outside mentoring.
yeah, that's
I
fair.
don't
It's
end up paying for mentoring anyway, so
right. Yeah, yeah. It's just so hard to be
online.
objective.
I don't think online.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, fuck me.
Dude,
What's up,
that's it.
coach?
You know, just look at his handle. Look at
What?
his
It's
handle.
true.
Oh my
So
God.
Brian's just come on this podcast and he's put on his handle 2 times world champion handler.
That's amazing.
Righto,
That's
mate.
amazing.
Righto.
Oh God.
It's
So
so
Um,
loud.
I think you'd
You're
have to
so
be really
loud.
good at what?
You're so
Oh, I'm too
loud.
tell me out
loud.
loud.
Megan,
I'm
Oh
not too
you're
loud.
man.
screaming. The kids
What?
are up.
Whatever. No, they're not.
Get. Why are you here, man?
We're actually not distracted right now.
I think you'd have to be really good at being objective with your own progress, uh, and yeah, just have a really good training partner.
Yeah, that's fair. That's really hard. Did you have any breakthrough moments during Sheffield prep, change in program technique, etc.?
Breakthrough moments.
You know what? There's a fair amount of questions about my deadlift.
The breakthrough moments for me in the Sheffield prep were just really taking the note of the things that we needed to improve for next year in terms of timing. And that's why I came out of the prep feeling really confident with what I'm doing with your program now. Because I did extra learning. Shout out to the TSG course. I really, really valued it. It really solidified for me because of the higher level that they deal with their athletes, seeing how they program their athletes. It's really solidified little pieces of the puzzles that I've been trying to put together in my mind on how to get you stronger and people that are at the top with me stronger. And I think it was a very valuable experience for me to be able to take on board what other people who are at the same level are doing and look at what I'm doing and then merge the two together because, like it would be fucking stupid of me right now to completely change everything we've done and start again. But I think that the way I'm viewing it now has been opened from that really long prep that we did.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at it objectively, from when I started with you, pretty much we've added like 20 kilos year over year.
I know we
So, like
have.
you're saying, it would be insane to take everything and throw it out the window.
100%. It would be, but you can always get better at what you're doing. And I think that that prep really showed me that um, that what we're doing is great, um, but you can always improve on what you're doing. And I think for you, it's just really small things like timing and pacing and getting better at putting in and taking away volume at the right time. Like those are the things that are gonna that really the ins and outs of undulating periodization. That's like really getting stuck into that stuff. And I think that it's a mistake for coaches to think that they know it, because you don't. And especially when it comes to adding frequency, like you can't just add another day without knowing how to cycle that day. And I think that when you're getting up to 4 times squat, 3 times deadlift, 5 times bench, that's a lot of SBD there. You know what I mean? So I think that has been the one big take from me with the learning from Sheffield. I think.
So that kind of goes into which there was a couple questions. Someone said I need an expose. I'm like, come on, was it that bad? But it really was about my deadlift journey. And like, let's be honest, when I first
What did they
started working
say?
with
Sorry,
you,
I missed that. What?
an expose of my deadlift journey. I'm like, wow, it really was that bad. And it was. And because like the journey basically, or the how my deadlift has progressed. I mean, let's be honest, how I feel is when I came and I started working with you, my deadlift was I was trying to squat the thing off the floor. Like it was pretty terrible. And I've learned how to technically get better. And that was where we saw a lot of huge gains initially, was just like the technique
Your
and the efficiency.
your
And then
leverages are so hard to deadlift.
they suck. I would like some appreciation while I'm getting hate for my bench that my
Yeah, like
deadlift
your
leverages
leverages
are shit.
terrible. Terrible. You have to have
Um,
the strongest. You've got to have really strong legs, a really strong back, and be super patient. Like you
yes.
can't rip that shit off the floor because it won't work.
No, it won't work. I've tried it. It doesn't work. Um, but I feel like the first couple years that we worked together was really just technique and slowly but surely being able to add a little bit more volume because my technique was so shitty I couldn't take any volume because I would always end up injured or
Yeah,
ah,
and like that's probably one big thing about the Sheffield prep that I have reflected on is because I tried to taper your RDLs and I tried to what?
I just hit it so bad into my nostril.
Oh no, that's the worst.
I'm crying. No, I'm just kidding.
It's just the amount of hinging and volume on your back. Like if you looked at your program on paper with how much you have to hinge and how much, like I had a conversation with Jason about this last week, with how much you have to hinge and how much back extensions you have to do, most people would look at that on paper and be like, that's fatiguing for her deadlift. But we showed at Sheffield, it actually isn't, because I will stand by my grave and saying that you missed that 220 because of the way that all that back work was tapered and all those back extensions were tapered. I
Yeah,
100%, I see it from you picking up.
same.
From when you picked up 150, I was like, oh, I
Yeah.
told her to do the back extensions.
No, you told me to not. Don't worry about it. Like, my
So
OCD breaking.
I think for
It is
you,
wild though.
it's
Crazy to
wild.
see.
It is wild that we've been able to put so much on your deadlift with literally haven't not changed the micro in 3 years. Only starting to change it now.
Yes, but in all fairness, the total volume I've been able to do has grown exponentially as my positioning and my back has gotten stronger.
Exactly, exactly. So that's what I'm saying. So like from a coaching perspective, like if you've got someone who is shit at deadlifting, like it's like keep the same stuff in and they'll get stronger because they'll get better at deadlifting. Like I don't even like I think probably going into this world coming up is where I'm really gonna start manipulating your deadlifts the way I do with your squats. Whereas other competitions I just drop reps. Like that's like peaking a novice. You know what I mean? Like like
They work
Um,
kind of obviously.
but it's worked because you haven't been able to handle the volume. And still now, like, I think another reflection is we had two blocks where deadlifts um, uh, could have done with a week less. So, like, which was the main, and which was the peak.
Yes.
Main was good, but definitely the peak. So, learning to pace that from my perspective will come in with prescribing more. Now that I know your deadlift and what you can hit is more predictable, whereas before it was like,
Yeah.
back kind of hurt on that one. Like,
So much back fatigue. So much back fatigue. But I do think some of the timing things that you're talking about, like head confounding factors, this prep, just because like it was like the first time ever I've used my legs on deadlift, where I was actually like, oh, I feel my legs. Like I'm using
yeah,
my legs. And at the same time, my squat volume was a lot lower. So, because when we were managing the injury, that it climbed very quickly, like it ramped quickly and it was totally fine. And I felt good. But in combination, I was like, oh, I think I'm fatigued, but like this never has happened to me because
it's never
I usually
happened.
only feel this in my
It's
back.
never happened to you before because you weren't lifting as much absolute volume with deadlifts, and that's why I'm going to be tracking it very, very carefully now to have a look at what that peak volume really is for your deadlifts and go back over that prep, because I feel like for Sheffield, you really did work to what your peak volume, what you can actually handle now for
Sure.
deadlifts. Whereas it's been going like this for
Yes.
so long, like up, whereas squats have gone a little bit
Mm-hmm.
less, like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Whereas deadlifts are
Yeah.
through the roof. So now it's
Exponentially.
time to
Steps rather than just a hill.
undulate them both. So I'm gonna like push squats one block and pull deadlifts back, and otherwise you're just gonna run into a wall.
Yeah. So I think the important pieces are like for you, like I feel like you kind of said if someone doesn't have great leverages for deadlifting, like get them to be better at deadlifting. Like keep what you have in there. Don't necessarily change everything. If you're an athlete, like I knew I was shitty at deadlifting. So I kind of just had to keep trying for 3 years to get better. And it did, but it was incremental.
Yeah, I think one of the major things that people miss with deadlifting is not hinging well and not doing enough volume when it comes to things like 45-degree back extensions, um, hinging in general, because like you can say that it'll give fatigue, but like if they're putting the program at the right spot and the athlete is executing it really well, you don't need to load them that much. Like I think the heaviest you got up to with your RDLs was like 130 or something.
Mm-hmm.
For someone who can deadlift 220, that's not much, you know. But it works because it's not fatiguing you so much. It's just putting you in that right position and actually training the posterior chain like it's supposed to, not chucking on a belt and hoiking the bar through the way you see it.
I'm not sure if you're talking about me, but that's a little rude.
I'm not talking
I'm just
about you.
kidding. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Sometimes slow is the right way to go. Slow is fast, like my squats.
Slow and steady.
Slow and steady. Are there any short ones? Some of these are like longer, so I'm not going to ask you those. But why do you think an athlete should work with a coach? 30-second answer.
Athlete, it depends on the level that you're at. An athlete should work through a coach to learn more. You should learn off your coach. You should grow together as your coach. And it is a sport, right? So in sports, people usually have coaches. I am a big believer in having mentors as well. So like I think a coach role should be type of a mentoring thing. And then I think a coach and athlete should learn off each other. I think that if you want to get better at something, having a team around you is vital.
Mm, fair. All right. How do you feel about SBD 6 to 7 times a week? I got asked this on a podcast I did this week, by the way.
I got asked this on a podcast I did this week too. I think it's great if you can handle it. I think, like, it's like asking a football player or a soccer player, like, how many times you kick a ball a week. Like, kick the fucking ball a week. Like, you need to, like, I think it's great, but it has
Practice.
to be individualized, and it has to be undulated. We already bench 4 or 5 times a week. What's wrong with deadlifting and squatting 4 or 5 times a week? Absolutely nothing, in my opinion. But in my opinion, also the accessories that are in that program need to be bang on with what the athlete needs. That program cannot afford to have accessories in there that are going to bleed fatigue, or accessories in there that aren't executed well, because it's a waste of time. And with powerlifting, it's already a very time consuming sport. If you want to put in accessories that the athlete isn't executing well, or they're not really needed to keep the body healthy, then what's the point?
Just time wasting. Do you think like if you were a beginner or intermediate, you should be SBDing 6 to 7 times a week?
No. Muscle
Why?
is because you need to grow muscle. So if there's, the fundamentals of physiology is the more muscle you have, the stronger you're going to be, or the more robust your body is going to be. It is important for newer athletes to grow as much muscle mass that they can for their weight class. If they are in a weight class, it's important that they are moving well, and it's important that they know how to execute the lifts. I would not put in an extra deadlift for you until I knew that you could execute 3 days well. Because we tried in the past and it didn't work straight away. But you needed to get to the point where you had enough muscle mass from doing other things. Like you're probably not going to like to hear this, but you're pretty at the top of the 63 range now.
Don't know what you're saying. More jacked, okay?
So, so my answer to that is no, I don't think so. I'm still a believer in starting with as least possible, because if you go to SBD 6-7 days a week, what are you going to take out, and you can't put much more in.
Especially if you aren't super technically efficient, it's just gonna be so fatiguing, and you're just like reinforcing bad habits in a way.
Exactly. As I said before, go back to your deadlift. Yeah, you learned how to deadlift, but you actually learned how to hinge. You actually learned how to push, and all those things. That's what accessories should help with,
Yeah.
in my
Yeah.
opinion.
And I think what's interesting is until I learned how to hinge, I couldn't get my upper body in the right position. And getting my upper body in the right
Not with
position, this
those
sounds
short arms.
so ridiculous. It's
Not with
so
those short arms.
challenging. It's like one of the most challenging pieces for me. And it's so small. The difference can be so small, but makes a huge difference in how deadlifts feel. All right. Last question. What advice would you, if you had to give one piece of advice for powerlifting coaches, what would it be?
Do face-to-face work before you do online, or be really good at communication with online. Don't be afraid to work with all different types of people when you start, because that's how you learn to work with all different types of people. And I think getting really good at programming is vital if you want to be in a position where you can take people to a level that they've never gone before. Yeah.
We did fantastic. We only got distracted a couple of times, but not that many. Okay.
Blame Brian, man.
I know. But look, I did have a lot more questions, but some of these are too long.
Holy shit.
I know. Perhaps you can come on part 2
Okay.
Someday when I do a podcast in 6 months again. I wasn't built for this shit. Is there anything you would like to add that we didn't talk about?
Man, that was good. That's great. You did good.
Thanks so much.
No worries.